on the flip side, I stayed at a home where the caregivers there were gang members. One of the caregivers like grabbed me by the hair and choked me and stuff. Not the kind of people you want as caregivers.
No.
Yeah, at about 18 is when I first tried meth, the worst drug I've ever done, and going forward I developed quite a problem with it. Is also where my kind of spiritual path really started. Not with Jesus, but with things like witchcraft. A long list of practices which are not good spiritually. Black mirror?
Yes.
That's a witchcraft term. Very dangerous witchcraft. Still completely miserable and very rageful at this time.
And was you still practicing all the darkness? I met a lot of people in Bali who had come from this spiritual sort of like awakening, people travelling, trying to find themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of them had been involved in things that they probably didn't class as witchcraft.
And I was so angry at the way I'd been living. Basically, I crucified the flesh, like went on this crusade against my lifestyle.
The righteous anger.
The righteous anger. I was furious.
My name is Joshua. Welcome back to the Jesus Magnet. Yeah, very excited. And very excited to get another testimony out there. This is what we do here. We take people's testimonies to Christ. What makes it more exciting is the gentleman sat to my left here is a good friend and is part of my testimony. It's part of my walk with Christ, and I'm really looking forward to other people getting to know him. I met Jesse in the church when I first got here to Queenstown a year ago, and we've kind of been walking this walk together. There's elements to his story that I still don't know, so I'm really interested to find out. And yeah, I think that's where we should kind of start off, Jesse.
Yeah, sure.
So
My story, I'd like to go through really beginning to end, because I've never actually told this whole story from start to end. And there's so much that every time I've left out. Okay. So I'd really like to start from the beginning, because my testimony really is, from the beginning. So I was raised in the Waikato, born in Huntly, raised in Hamilton, and we're 4 siblings.
Which is the North Island of New Zealand, right?
Yeah, North Island of New Zealand, yeah. So I'm one of 4 siblings, and growing up, we didn't have a lot. So, not the greatest like school lunches or anything like that. I remember, my backpack was like basically just a plastic bag. Yeah. And school lunch was, I can't remember a whole lot, but normally it'd be just the most basic thing you could imagine. And yeah, so it was.
What kind of place is it where you grew up? How would you describe it?
Well, it was like the ghetto, the hood, basically, right? Yeah. So a lot of crime around. Like I remember growing up in Huntly, our house got robbed 3 times in the span of 2 weeks, so. And then in Hamilton, there was like a drive-by shooting on our street, which, there was actually a baby hit. So like there was actual, death around, and some crazy, crazy stories from those suburbs, and I'm one of them. So we get to share that today. So yeah, I guess it really starts in Hamilton in primary school. Growing up in primary school, a lot of my teachers quite obviously noticed like something was not right at home. Like I'd show up at school with like very dirty clothes and like, a plastic bag for a backpack, and just not, something's not right. Yeah. So obviously the teachers were reporting this to whoever you report this to, and by about 9 years old, I was getting visited by like social workers at school, getting pulled out of class. And at the time, I didn't really know what that was all about, but I knew it wasn't good. So
you knew it wasn't normal.
I knew it wasn't
whatever
normal
means.
Yeah. It's quite strange. And I remember reading my sister's diary one time, and she was quite panicked about it. But I didn't really know a whole lot about that. And yeah, anyway, so about at the age of 10 is when those same social workers showed up to my house.
Okay.
And then I went into foster care.
Okay.
From about the age of 10. It was quite dramatic how it all happened. Like, my mother had like very bad mental health problems.
Mm-hmm.
So she was suffering a lot, in her own way. And basically she wasn't able to do a very good job at being a mother. Which in hindsight, I don't have any like bad feelings towards her. It's just how it went. But
at the time, how did it feel?
well, at the time I was very numb to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, I remember when the social workers came, my mother started saying some pretty crazy stuff. Like things like, I don't love them anymore. Like, get them out of here,
Mm-hmm.
And I watched that like break my sister, because at this point, my other two brothers had already been taken into care.
Yep.
And I didn't really know where they'd gone. I thought they just ran away because we ran away from home all the time back then.
Okay.
And
You and your brothers.
yeah. But we always ended up coming back 10 years old, nowhere to go. You know? And yeah, I remember the shock on the police's face and the social worker's face, and my sister kind of breaking down when she was saying all this stuff. For me, I was pretty numb to it, to be honest. Like, I really do feel like it's something that should have affected me, but I'm pretty level-headed. I knew it wasn't really.
There'd have been
been
some level of protection going on there as well from yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Protecting your own heart.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so from there I went into my first foster home, first out of very many. And that foster home was like pretty good, but it was very authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't really have any freedom in that home. So like, for example, I just went to school and went home for 7 straight months. I remember one time my friend was having like a birthday party, and he invited me, but it was the next day. Mm-hmm. So for me to do something like that, because I was in government care, I had to give like 2 weeks, 3 weeks notice so they could file all the paperwork, do all this stuff just for me to go to a birthday party. So there was very little freedom in my life, and I was very, very upset about that lack of freedom. That's something that really affected me.
Sounds almost like punishment.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, 10 years old, I was not very happy. I remember like crying myself to sleep a lot at night and just being very, very sad kid. But yeah, obviously it wasn't just the kind of authoritarian stuff that was making me sad, but that was a big factor. One really good upside about that home is I learned about Jesus there. That was the first time I learned about Jesus. And I'd kind of always believed in God as far as I could remember, but this is when I learned who Jesus was.
What did that look like, the belief in God?
Well, the belief in God was a very like simple. Like, I know someone made all this. Like, I know God's real.
Just from your own. Yeah, I share that too, even from being a child.
Yeah, I always knew God is real. It was kind of like not something I had to consider.
Okay.
But when I learned about Jesus, it was kind of the same. It kind of just clicked. Like, of course, it's Jesus. Jesus is God. And I didn't really think too much about it. Yeah, it wasn't like I submitted to Jesus. Right
how
there.
How was Jesus introduced? Was it by a?
Well, it was by the caregiver in the home. So we went to church with her.
Okay. What was her name?
Robin. Yeah.
Well, that's special.
Yeah, pretty cool, eh? Yeah. So we went to church with her, and I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit there.
Okay.
It wasn't like any huge breakthrough.
But at the age of, what was this?
10.
10. Okay.
10, yeah. And yeah, that was really when my relationship with Jesus started, although I didn't submit to him in any way.
But it was a pretty big deal, man.
Yeah.
Feeling that love, feeling that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was when I first encountered the Holy Spirit in like small kind of way, a very gentle way.
Okay.
And how that ended with that foster home, I was there for about 7 or 8 months. I remember they offered to adopt me.
Okay.
And kind of right then and there, I knew it was over. I couldn't live there with them. It was too authoritarian. Like, I had no freedom. I had to get out of there.
Yeah.
But the thing about that was, I knew if I said no, they would hold this resentment against me.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew if I said yes, I'd be trapped in this authoritarian kind of zero freedom until I reach adulthood. So I said yes, but that was just to keep things calm.
Okay.
And, you know, I made the decision, I got to run away. I got to get out of
It's
here.
a big decision to make as a child, man.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, anyway, I went for it. I just started running away. The police would come bring me back, run away straight away again. Not even 10 seconds. I'd walk out the door. Okay. Eventually they bar the windows and stuff. So I couldn't, but then I would just do it anyway. I'd just leave out the back door, leave out the front door. You can't lock someone in a house. Well, you could, but it's very difficult. And I'd run away to my dad's house and I'd walk hours across Hamilton, from Rototuna all the way over to past Fairfield, close to the Hamilton Gardens. Mm-hmm. So a very long walk, hours and hours. And I'd walk over to my dad's house. And my dad was a great man, but he had Huntington's. So Huntington's is like a genetic disorder where your white blood cells start to attack all the muscles in your body.
Okay.
So all the muscle, your brain's a muscle, you know, your heart's a muscle.
Yeah.
You're made of muscles like blood and bone, basically. Mm-hmm. So this takes effect when you turn like 40-ish. And that's why he was deemed unfit to have us in his custody. Yep. But he followed us around. Looking back at my childhood, when I was in Huntly, he was living in Huntly. We moved to Coromandel for a year. He was in Coromandel. We moved to Hamilton. He was in Hamilton.
So he was always present in...
He was always following us around.
Was he a loving father?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Great man. But of course, I didn't get to know him as much as I would have liked to. But yeah, it is what it is. And so at this point, he was really having trouble having conversations and not quite... he was living in a place like a retirement kind of village. Mm-hmm. And then after that, he moved into a care home. Yeah. And he passed away at like 52. Yeah. When I was 18. But yeah, anyway, so I'd just be running away back to my father's house, and eventually they put me in a different home, different boys' homes, and I'd stay for a bit and try it out, but eventually I just keep running away, running back.
Powerful that, you know, even though your dad couldn't physically help you, he was running to...
Yeah, totally.
Loving father, of course, he was running to him for whatever reason. It's like you just knew that was good, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He was, you know, escaping from that place, and and also a pretty clear kind of learning experience at a young age that, you know, actually telling the truth and leaving, and even though it might hurt those people that you obviously loved, you know, you obviously had a lot of you know, it would have probably been the decision.
It would be awesome to talk to them again, Robin and Connor. Because we were pretty close at that time, you know. They offered to adopt me, but I never got to tell them that, you know, why I had to leave. It was mandatory for me. For them, I just switched, you know, and I was 10 years old. I'm not going to explain this all to you. No. But, you know, I hope they see this and one day we get to talk about it, but because they're good people. But yeah, anyway, so I started running away all the time to whatever home they put me in. And there was a lot of homes. I can't really remember, but it was probably like 5 or 6 homes over the span of like a year or two.
Wow.
Well, yeah, it was probably more than that actually. Lots of different homes, boys' homes, just foster homes, lots of different places. Some pretty rough homes as well. Like I remember one boys' home was really good. I want to give this guy credit. I can't remember his name. Hope he sees this too. He'll know I'm talking about him. Him and his wife, his wife used to make cakes, just to confirm it was him. You know? So he knows. He was a great guy. I remember I actually ran away to his house a few times, knocking on the door at midnight.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah. And he was a great man as well, really great man. On the flip side, I stayed at a home where the caregivers there were gang members, you know, and one of those caregivers, you know, this time was probably like 12 or 11. One of the caregivers like grabbed me by the hair and choked me and stuff. Like, not the kind of people you want as caregivers.
No.
But there's plenty of them in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the system's overrun, and we'll get to that. But anyway, so I just keep running away, and eventually the social workers, they don't want to deal with this. For them, I'm sure they start off in a good place, but you know, after so many years working in that system, I was just a problem for them that they had to solve. So I got sent to, we called it residence. It's this residential facility for kids in state care, both youth justice and youth protection. It's like juvie, basically, but you don't need to do anything really that wrong to go there. And they sent me there for absconding, which is running away, whakatakapokai in Auckland.
Okay.
I lived there for a little while, a little bit over 3 months, because they couldn't really keep me there because I actually hadn't done anything besides running away. For them, it was just get rid of this problem, you know.
So this serious time in your life of just unsettled unrest, no serious stability, you know, from one house to another.
Yeah.
And that was like your whole, so how old were you at this time when you was now?
When I went into residence, I was 12 years old.
So it's been a pretty hectic couple of years.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I got expelled from school in that time for fighting.
Okay.
Got up to heaps of mischief, you know,
Just acting out.
Yeah, just acting out, totally. Yeah. Like, started like smoking weed and drinking alcohol in that time as well, from about the age of 11, you know, and by the time I went to residence, it was getting there, you know, it was getting quite regular.
And where was like the relationship with Jesus? Was you still going to church?
It wasn't really much, you know, ever since I left that house, it didn't really go much further at that point, to where we're at in the story now. But yeah, anyway, residence was, it was not a very good place to send me. Like I was really a good kid. Like I just didn't, you know, it's just unfortunate. And at this point in time, there was so much happening, talking to these social workers about what they're going to do with me, all this stuff. What I'd do is I just shut down. I just stopped talking. Because like for me at that time, nothing I said mattered.
Okay.
Like there was no input, there was no asking me.
You
There was
didn't have a voice.
so what I'd do, I remember when we were at residence and they were sorting out what they thought was some of the stuff they brought that was mine, because I got police escort there. And they were sorting out this stuff and they were asking me questions, is this yours? And I was just like, just stop talking. I stopped talking for like 3 days, just went mute, like, because nothing I said mattered and I didn't really care about it anyway. And it was pretty crazy. But yeah, that's kind of how it started in residence.
Sounds like at that point you kind of just given up on yourself.
Yeah, totally shut down.
Anything.
Yeah. So in residence, it's maybe not as bad as you think, but that's me saying that. So now, you know, what I'm about to talk about.
From what I know of you and the other experiences we've talked about, because Jesse started working with me the last week or so, painter and decorator, and we've been working side by side, and he's been telling me lots of other stories from his life that we're going to get into, other very interesting parts. And I think Jesse's assumption of what's kind of tough and, you know, normal is most people's idea of hell. So
yeah. I just kind of said that and I kind of realized, well, actually, it's not normal. It's not a great place. So in there, I was sexually assaulted, got into lots of fights. I wasn't particularly bullied because I was a good kid, easy to get along with, you know. So it it wasn't like people didn't like me in there, but there was a lot of stuff going on in there that was really messed up. Like, I remember another boy who got sexually assaulted in there, same age as me, 12 years old, and he was just yelling from his room for help. And that, of course, like, security came and like basically saved this boy, but like damage had already been done. Like, very nasty place. But in my mind, I'll always say, well, I know worse. Like, I know worse than that. But so I'll always underplay things like this.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so I got out of there, and they wanted to keep me separate from everyone I know in Hamilton. Their method was to isolate me so that I wouldn't act out, right? Wouldn't become a problem for them again. So they made me stay in Auckland, Manurewa, and I did my first year in high school at Manurewa High. Turned 13 in residence, had my birthday there, and Christmas there as well. And got out, went straight to Manurewa High in this home, and basically didn't assimilate with that family at all. Didn't really want to, didn't care to, and spent basically that whole year in my room and at school. And then eventually came back to Hamilton, which I was really happy about because, that's kind of
home.
Well, I wouldn't say home, but, I would say I was more familiar with it. I knew people there and, I had friends there. So I started going to Fairfield, and that's when my relationship with drugs really started to level up, started to get into a lot of A-class drugs, and a bit of crime as well. And again, in foster homes, I did get to one quite good foster home after about being there for a year. When I was 14, I went to this foster home with a woman, and from what I remember, she doesn't like her name out there, so I won't mention her name.
Okay.
But she was kind of the opposite of the first foster home, right? So absolute freedom, we loved it. And actually, as soon as I moved in there was a boy living there in care that was in the first foster home that I had been at. Okay. So with Robin. And now I was staying with him at this other one, with Freedom. And it was kind of a crazy thing. And we were like brothers for a while there. And I still consider him like almost like blood. He lives in Christchurch now. And, we don't talk much, but that camaraderie is still there.
That's 100%. A beautiful thing, man.
Yeah. So living there is also where my kind of spiritual path really started. Not with Jesus, but with things like witchcraft.
Okay.
All sorts of a long list of practices which are not good spiritually. This is when I started to realize I had some spiritual gifts, and I really wanted to dive into them. You know me, I'm kind of like 100 or nothing.
Yeah. Touch into how did you get into that kind of stuff? Because I feel like with, modern society, that's a big part of what's happening now. It's what's going on. A lot of people in Bali who had come from this spiritual sort of like awakening, people traveling, trying to find themselves. Yeah. A lot of them had been involved in things that they probably didn't class as witchcraft, but you start talking to them and it's quite apparent that the things they were doing, they aren't of God.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, the caregiver there was basically a witch.
Okay. Right. Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really like, she gave me lots of freedom and she was great for me. She gave me lots of freedom spiritually as well, to practice whatever I want, and it's not like she forced anything on me, and, she didn't even really show me much of what she did. She kind of kept a lot of it to herself. But that was when I really started to learn about the spiritual world. And it was quite intense, learning about a whole bunch of things. Like, there were spirits in that house. some malicious, some seem not so malicious. And yeah, there was certain things about that house that would, that probably creep. I know your thoughts on this kind of stuff probably creep you out proper. Like there was this mirror in my room, and I just had to cover it every night, otherwise I could not sleep. Like it was this unsettling. It's kind of a weird thing, and like mirrors are used in witchcraft, like quite a lot. Have you heard the episode Black Mirror?
Yes.
And that's a witchcraft term.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a very, very dangerous witchcraft thing we use in witchcraft. Yeah, it's extremely dangerous. I won't talk too much about it, to be honest. But yeah, got into things like I don't really want to talk too much about what I was doing, to be honest, because it's just not that beneficial. But it was not basic stuff. It was quite advanced, straight from the get-go. What you'd probably imagine people doing, like tarot and stuff. That stuff I'll mention because it's not that freaky. It's witchcraft. You shouldn't do it, but it's very elementary.
I think people need to understand the power of these things.
It's very dangerous.
And the fact that, what it can do. And if people are so... I often find the people that do believe in this kind of... Not believe, but they know this kind of stuff, or they practice this kind of stuff, are often offended by the name of Jesus, by the name of Christ. It sort of goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand and proves, for me anyway, definitely proves helps solidify my belief and my faith in Jesus, because the cross really upsets that part of people.
You're 100% right. And, I'll just touch on further on in the story, one of my teachers in witchcraft, when I was way later on, this teacher, she would openly mock Jesus to me. It's like a different side of her would come out, and she'd be dancing around the fire, like saying obscenities about Jesus. And like, anyway, that's a little bit further on, where I came under a lot of spiritual attack at that time, like really hardcore stuff. Like, again, I don't want to mention too much about it, but just imagine any horror movie and you're living in a horror movie, like a literal horror movie. And until that'll stay like that for a while, until you kind of fix what you've done. And in saying that, the only real way to fix what you've done is Jesus. But, slap a Band-Aid on it. It's a better way to say it. And that happened a few times, in a few different ways. I'd stumbled into something that was ridiculously dangerous, and I really suffered the consequences. And there's a few periods of time when my life literally turned into a horror movie. Like, imagine the scariest ghost movie you've seen, and that's what it's like when you mess up in witchcraft.
I find it very interesting, like, personally, that people will, people from the outside of who aren't involved in the faith or in the church or religious practices of any faith, of any religion. I believe as Christians, we understand the principalities of other, and the war that's going on underneath or above our world, alongside our world more than others. But I'm a big, we talk about history a lot. I'm a big advocate of history. I like learning history, and you only have to look throughout all histories of all manner of people to see that there's like this much deeper thing that's going on that people harness, whether it's good or bad. And people who want to deny that, often people that are caught up in the world of today and, material things of this world. But it's so clear that these forces, are real. Just learn about Vikings, learn about the Romans, learn about the Egyptians, and it's all so apparent. And people who want to deny it, they're often the same kind of people who want to deny Jesus.
One of the big things about witchcraft is pursuit of power, right? So you're trying to gain power over things. You're trying to control things, power over other people, situations, and it can get very nasty. And I did do a lot of that nasty stuff, like I was very spiritually unclean. And right up until about 16, I was practicing this and really got, I was actually quite I don't want to say I was good at it because it's not a good thing to do, but
you could be good at doing a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was doing some stuff that I was performing it to quite a high level, even at that age. And we did all sorts of things. And about 16 is where my drug addiction took another step up.
Okay.
So I started. It wasn't quite 16, but still, around 16, I was high all the time at this point, about 16 to 18, I was probably high literally 90% of the time. So I remember I worked at Macca's, and one day I went to work sober and everyone thought I was on drugs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because something was different, they thought I was on some drugs, but no.
That's a pretty crazy statement.
Yeah. So I would go into work high every single day so consistently that one day I showed up sober, they thought I was on drugs.
As in weed, alcohol?
Weed. Just
Okay,
weed
right.
at this point. But I was still doing A classes occasionally, like a few times a month.
And what does that mean? Like
mushrooms. Like ketamine or like speed, all these kind of things. And that continued right until up about 18.
Was there a connection, do you believe, between, because I think it's pretty obvious, but there's a connection between the witchcraft and then doing
I've always found practitioners for witchcraft are always involved in drugs.
Yeah.
There could be exceptions to that. I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
However, I can't think of a case where there hasn't been.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing. But anyway, so it's continued that cycle till about 18, and then again another step up in drugs. And at this point, I was, selling drugs, selling weed, and doing plenty of witchcraft. Although at this point, I had slowed down a little bit because on the witchcraft because of the backfires that I had experienced.
Yeah.
And at this point, I wasn't living in that same house. I'd moved into a flat.
Okay.
I was working, and still a kid, still totally a kid, still a child, And but I didn't have the same people around me that could tell me what to do if it backfired again.
Okay.
So I really slowed down. And at about 18 is when I first tried meth. So that was definitely the worst drug I've ever done, and going forward I developed quite a problem with it. But that took time. But at 18 was when I first tried it a few times.
Yeah.
First with some friends at a party, and then a few other random occasions. Then at 18, I just wanted to get out of there. I just wanted to start a life. At this point, I was miserable, still completely miserable and very rageful at this time.
And was you still practicing all the darkness?
Oh yeah,
practicing this.
Still practicing it, just not to quite the same level as when I had people around me to, show me things. So rageful at this point, rageful at myself for no reason, just really, really dark thoughts all the time, and extremely sad as well. Just absolutely like a dead man walking.
You've often said to me, a quote that you often say, which is very powerful. I've heard you say it a few times, is that before Christ you felt like you was like the living dead, basically.
Yeah, totally.
Like you was alive, but you was actually dead. Like you actually felt that even at that time.
Yeah.
So it's like you knew you was walking around and you was like, there's got to be more. There has to be something better than this feeling.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So at this point, I just started a new cycle of escapism. So I'd be moving around a lot, and the first time I did that was actually really good. I moved to Dunedin, and started a scuba diving diploma. So I became a scuba diving instructor in Dunedin, and that was kind of really my first step into being an actual adult. At 18, and at 17 I actually hitchhiked from Hamilton to Dunedin. Tried to start the course. They found out I was 17 and said come back in a year, so I hitchhiked back to Hamilton.
What made you want to be a scuba diver?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It was just do something crazy.
Okay.
That was the goal. Do something just crazy.
A bit of an out, right? A bit of like a,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, get out, just get out of here.
Pretty cool that you don't remember why.
Yeah.
You just kind of like, it was
something, I had to do something.
Yeah.
Had to get out of there and just make a huge change, because my life was not going in any direction that, seemed pleasant. So, came back in a year, started that course, and, that year I was in Dunedin, I was drinking heavily, with, all the uni fellas and stuff like that, and doing drugs, still plenty of drugs, did meth a couple times there as well. Then I volunteered at that same facility that I was training at. So then I was actually a diving instructor there. Wasn't getting paid for it, but the work experience was great and the job was awesome. So worked there while working a cleaning job for the following year. So I stayed there for about 2 years. Moved to Nelson for a year, saved up some money and went to Oz. And then I was really living the life in Oz that I always kind of was envisioning. I was working on the Great Barrier Reef, doing scuba diving tours. And the scuba diving thing kind of just gave me a new lease on life.
Okay.
Like
being out in nature, being out in God's creation, seeing things.
Scuba diving is something else, man.
Yeah.
Your heart rate drops when you submerge your body in water. It's like a natural reaction humans have. It's just this peace, like...
It was an escape, right?
Totally, yeah. Yeah. It was awesome, though. It was great. It was so good. And, I had something to live for at this point. I had a reason to keep living. I was working in Australia. It was just the best time ever. Like, the Great Barrier Reef was some next level diving. Diving in Dunedin isn't like that great. Got some cool things like sea lions there, but
pretty cold, eh?
Yeah, super cold, bad visibility.
Yeah.
And then I went to Australia, and it was just crazy diving. I was used to like 1-2 meters visibility, just getting dive numbers. And then in Australia, it was like 20 meters vis, and I was just like lost my mind. It was so great. And yeah, it was just everything I ever really wanted. And then COVID happened about 3 months in. And yeah, 3 months into that job, the whole industry got shut down. So the company I was working for, the founder and director of the company, one of Cairns' first diving operators, or it was Cairns' first dive tours, that's where all these big companies got the idea from, was this guy. He had a heart attack about a few weeks before COVID, or like a month before COVID, and passed away. And he was the driving force of that business. And a couple of weeks after that, on our main vessel, we had 2 vessels, one really small one and one pretty decent sized one, like 32 packs. And one of the engines just completely gone, like 2 weeks after that.
Where was the spiritual stuff and the drugs when you were scuba diving?
It kind of took a back seat at this time.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Still smoking weed.
Yeah.
But, I was more happy. I didn't need to distract myself at this point so much.
Did you feel like even the fact that you'd left because you'd sort of like stopped you'd stopped opening so many doors, you'd kind of like, your life started to shift in a different direction, right?
Totally. Yeah, totally.
And
yeah.
I find it personally fascinating that, you don't even really know why you start scuba diving. You just started doing it. It was as if a seed was planted, like I believe it was by God, by maybe go and do this outrageous, crazy thing that a boy from your situation shouldn't be able to do. And next minute, you're in God's creation, the Great Barrier Reef, with all this freedom and beauty. And
it's a very good point. It's a very good point. Never actually thought about that. But yeah, so Yeah, that's a very good point. I never actually thought about that. But where was I?
You're enjoying life, but this guy, the founder of the company just sadly passed away. And
yeah, he passed away. Then the engine on our main boat, one of them completely out. So that boat had to be dry docked for like 6 months to get the work done. Then a couple of weeks after that, COVID happened. So the company got liquidated. The company just got demolished, and it was Cairns' oldest operating dive company. So it was quite a sad thing, really.
So you must have been sad and stressed at this time. And
well, the big thing that stressed me out was that was the end of my diving career, and thousands, tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 other dive instructors.
Yep.
That was the end of the industry for a very long time.
How did you deal with these kind of issues then? How did you process them? Because now we've been through quite a bit together, really.
Yeah.
Ups and downs, and nothing compared to this kind of stuff. But, and probably very trivial, really. But, little day to day. And now it's sort of, we kind of are, God will look after us. And,
it destroyed me.
Okay, right, yeah.
Completely destroyed me. It was like I had never left Hamilton, Like it was straight back to step one.
Okay.
All that resentment, all that pain, all that sadness came straight back. Right. My distraction was gone.
Yep.
And I had to face it all again. And I came back to New Zealand and started to use meth quite regularly.
Okay.
Turned to drugs very heavily. And this is really when that escapism, moving around, really kicked off. I was just trying to escape it all, really. I moved around probably like 8 times in the span of like 3 years or something, different towns and stuff, different jobs. So when I worked on the fishing boats, worked in different restaurants, worked in vineyards.
Because that was pretty hardcore, right? It's been a bit of a, Jesse probably feels like he's been on a podcast to work with me, because as soon as he told me he'd been on the boats, it was a sort of question and answer for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting learning about how hardcore that lifestyle is. And just going back to what we were saying before is, I don't know if I'm jumping forward too much, but I often find it's the case with people and myself where you find things that aren't Jesus. We'll be as straight as as we can be about it. That definitely help us escape or help us get a new direction in life. Mine was bodybuilding. Training in the gym, weight training, that positive reinforcement I got. That helped me deal with my anxiety and my problems. Even though there's the worst thing you've been through is the worst thing you've been through, and it's hard to compare stories. And we shouldn't compare each other's stories. But I definitely share that. And I found things that helped me deal with my issues. But then when life changes and maybe those things get taken away, or the plan changes, or you think, oh, is this my path? Or you sort of go back to square one. The scuba diving was taken away, and all of a sudden you go back to coping with the problem, with these issues, with this thing you'd buried. And it's back to reality. And it's as if like you believe that side of it was a dream, maybe. And we see that all the time. Like we see that in the youth that you're helping, and multiple people, they find something that helps them, but then it comes back around. Versus, I don't know about you, but now with Christ, it's sort of like he's never going anywhere.
Yeah,
this thing that we found, this fire we found, it was always burning.
Yeah, it's like the scuba diving went away. Like any vice outside of Jesus will leave you.
Yeah. Any vice outside of Jesus will leave you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's just the facts. Yeah. And there's other spiritual teachings, which I'll get into soon, because I went deep down that path a little bit later in the story. But they will also leave you. They're not, there's only one way. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I did miss one point in Australia because I saw these witchcraft doors open.
Yep.
Like I said, I slapped a Band-Aid on it. I didn't Jesus the problem.
Yeah, you just closed the door to the dragon.
It wasn't actually closed. I couldn't describe how it actually was, but it was still open. It was a very nasty door to leave open. And one night I was in my home in Australia, and I'm not going to talk too much about this, but it was like the horror movie. Boom, straight back.
Yeah.
Just full on,
Yeah.
full on, as crazy as you could think.
Yeah.
And after that, after dealing with that and the way that I used to deal with those kind of things,
Physical entities.
yeah,
I believe that there's an importance to talk about this because, you know, I find a lot of people that are new to the church, a lot of the young people in the young adults group and stuff, when we start having these conversations, you see the blinkers going off. And especially like I would say, I work on the door and you speak to people and you get into all kinds of crazy conversations, especially when you tell them you're a Christian. And a lot more people in this world have experienced things and they believe and have seen things. And I'm not one of them. Like I've felt physical darkness and I've opened doors to darkness, you know. You don't have to listen to my story to see how obvious that is. But there's a lot of people who've been through what you've been through in the sense of like the spiritual side. And I think some people like to discount them as, oh, it's crazy or it's not real, or
the enemy is very real.
Yeah. And I think it's important to like make that very clear. You know, how do we fight the dragon if we don't acknowledge the dragon?
Yeah.
You know, how do we, you know, and that's in all forms of things, addiction or whatever.
The reason why I don't go into it too much is because, quite frankly, it incites fear.
You don't want to give it power.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as Jesus is at the center.
Exactly.
We know that he's stronger
this
than
is about the Lord, not the enemy.
Totally.
Really. So that's the reason why I don't go too deep into the details of the witchcraft. But it's not something to take lightly.
No.
It's very, very hardcore. Like I've got tattoos that have to do with witchcraft on my back as well.
Yeah.
Well, the one on my back isn't witchcraft, but it's more like a teaching, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, and we'll get to a point where we talk about how we met. And okay, I don't want to skip forward. I'm going to let you carry on telling the story.
That's a cool part.
But we will get to that point because you were, for me, the affirmation of the principalities of the other. Because I came to you, we'll talk about how it happened, and you were very clear there was something going on there that wasn't normal. It wasn't a normal problem. I'd seen sadness, I'd seen, you know, grief, I'd seen pain, but this was different. And yeah, we'll get to that, how we met, and it's quite powerful. But
anyway, in Australia, this happened again, right? This door was open, and it was spiritual attack on a level very few people experience. Sorted it out, like I said, and one of my flatmates gave me a Bible. That was my first Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, so pretty cool part of the story.
Yeah, he gave you a weapon. You didn't even know he was,
it's amazing. Yeah, it's one of the best. I've still got that Bible, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, my first Bible.
Did you read it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was when I first started reading the Bible. I didn't really. I'd pull it out when I wanted to connect with Jesus, because at this point, Jesus was coming into my mind more, you know. And I'd pull it out just to connect with Jesus, and I wouldn't get through very much at a time. You know, I wouldn't have even read an entire book. It was just the New Testament. It was just a small one, but man, that was powerful. It was a gift, you know, and I treasured that thing. But yeah, I started reading the Bible, you know, like a month here, a month there, you know, really just here and there. Came back to New Zealand, moved around, and yeah, this is when drugs really started to take over. And escapism was like my thing. I was just moving to a new place, because, you know, when you move to a new place, you kind of got a chance to change some habits. You know, you change your whole surroundings. Everything's changed. You've got a good opportunity to change things about yourself too. So I was doing that for years, you know. I can't really... So I would have got back at 22, turned 21 in Oz. I would have continued this cycle for probably like 4 years. Just moving around, and throughout this cycle, the drugs were stepping up every time. And by about 2025, my meth addiction was really getting there. It wasn't as bad as some other people I know, but it was quite regular.
Was you still reading the Bible ever?
Here and there.
Yeah,
like
but you were still reading it here
occasionally.
And there.
Yeah, just little bits, and I was learning. But over that time, I had done a little bit here and there to start to really form a picture, you know. just the New Testament, but that's all the good stuff,
Just
man.
these little seeds being dropped, right?
Yeah,
These
bro.
little things being planted.
Yeah. And
You know?
so I'd start, this was, a lot of this was written on my heart as well. And like a lot of this was philosophy that really was already within me. And I'd say
It's in all of us, bro. Yeah, as well.
I'd say some of these things in spiritual circles and they would not be happy with it.
Yeah,
not like I'm quoting the Bible. Well, I was quoting the Bible without knowing it.
Yeah, man.
And it'd set something off in them and they would, they would not like it sometimes. But yeah, so when I moved to Waiheke Island, probably like 24, 25 or something like that, which was not that long ago now, probably about 3.5 years. I don't know. Yeah, something like that. And this is when like spiritualism and witchcraft got to its height in my life, because Waiheke Island is an amazing place. It's a very spiritual place, not in a bad way, in a really great way. Everyone used to say in the spiritual cycle, in the spiritual circles in Waiheke, the island calls people to it when they need to go there to like really start their journey. And I still believe this. It's such a magical place. Not bad magical, good magical. An amazing place. And yeah, made some really amazing friends. Really got involved in some circles that were very beautiful, very amazing people. Extremely spiritual people, not Christians, but very beautiful, There was a lot of holes in what they believed in, and I was really pursuing this spiritual path at this point because like my drug addiction was so bad and like I had not escaped anything. I'd tried this cycle and it was failing.
Was you trying to use spirituality to solve these problems?
Yes. At this point,
so it wasn't 2 and 2. It wasn't the witchcraft and the drugs. It was that kind of like, now I'm going to try and be spiritual to actually save myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
This was more of a pursuit of spiritual cleanliness.
Yes. Okay. Right. So it was trying to do the good thing.
Yeah.
It was actually trying to lead into the positive side of spirituality.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is summoning instead of summoning demons, you're now trying to actually like connect with Mother Earth, connect with whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I went there and, connected with some amazing people and, instilled some good habits in me. They had some good habits, like sauna, like working out, and
meditation,
prayer. Yeah. Lots of good stuff. Lots of bad stuff as well though. Plenty of bad stuff. So there was a lot of witchcraft there as well.
Okay.
And ultimately that's the direction I started going in, because at this point I still didn't really see witchcraft as witchcraft. I wouldn't have called it witchcraft.
A lot of people don't, and they think like it's funny to joke about. People joke about witchcraft. People joke about witches. They talk about being witches. They talk about Halloween and things like that. And you should be, again, I get quite passionate about history.
Yeah,
but people need to look at history. They need to look at the physical. If they don't want to believe, all the texts that we believe, which is like the Bible. If they don't want to believe that, then just go and look at the history that we're told we have to believe at school.
Yeah.
And you'll see that like witches aren't good. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Like none of this there's a reason why there was these crazy witch trials and people were terrified of witches. And it's not some patriarchal thing that men did. And it's like there's elements to that in all kinds of things in all society. Look how they twisted Jesus.
Yeah.
But it's not good.
I wouldn't wish the things that I experienced through witchcraft are my worst enemies. Yeah, it's hardcore, man. It's hardcore. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, there's some things that are really you don't open those doors. But yeah, the reason I kind of tear up is I think about other people going through that, and it's a trick. It's a lie. You know, it's false. It's not the way. But yeah, anyway, really started getting into these spiritual circles, and it was a real mixture of good and bad, and that's what a lot of these New Age agnostic teachings are. They'll be mixing the good with the bad. They'll give you some real gold, some real good stuff, and then they'll feed in a little bit of a little bit of
The enemy's really good at doing that.
oh yeah, and he'll mask it. He'll wrap sin up as a beautiful present, and he'll wrap righteousness up as something ugly. So, and this is what you start to really see when you start to enter into this first steps towards, say, spiritual hygiene.
And the truth, right?
Yeah.
Because what I find is often that a lot of these things, they make it seem like you can have this spiritual truth and freedom, and it's easy.
Yeah.
Because when you become a Christian, you realize that actually it's quite hard.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't suddenly make life easy. You actually suddenly have to step up.
Yeah.
And it's not all about you. A lot of the spiritual stuff, it's about self. It's about channeling self, and it's about channeling. It's all this kind of like, inner stuff that's going to like make your life better.
Yeah.
And it's going to like, manifestation and versus like what we believe is all about, it's a lot more about service to other people. And it's also about nothing is in our power. Nothing good comes from us. It comes from him. And it's a lot more, it's harder to tell the truth than it is to
make up a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these teachings were teaching us that we were gods. We are God.
Yeah.
Like, not that we are the image of God. We are God himself. And it goes down this long path of pursuit of power, power over things, and over people, over situations, and control. It's quite funny. They'll preach like ego death, and like Buddhists, we're not in control, while simultaneously pursuing this power to control things. And like I said, they'll wrap it up in 1,000 different ways, but you use the word to cut through and see the truth that it's self-serving ultimately above all things. And they would openly agree with that. Like, you got to serve self like kind of first. That's not at all what I believe in now. Jesus will look after me, and I'll look after whoever he asks me to look after. I'll serve, and he'll look after me. But yeah, anyway, at this point, witchcraft and spirituality kind of, got tied into each other with this new kind of spiritual hygiene that I had. It took my witchcraft to a whole new level. And I really started to do, inviting spirits into me to do things through me, to people, for people. It wouldn't never really be to people. It'd be masked as for people. Like, ultimately it wasn't even in my mind, ultimately I'd mask it that way, but it wasn't even for people. It was for people to give me their, like, not gratitude, but admiration.
Okay.
That's
like, pretty dark, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when I cut through to the truth and behind my own lies, it's just me positioning myself higher and higher, It's weird, it's really weird. And the enemy is very good at, using your good intentions for bad, and kind of masking things to you, and tricking you. Yeah. Really good at that. But yeah, and at this point is when I had that spiritual teacher I was talking about, dancing around the fire, mocking Jesus.
It's literally fire, literally like how you imagine it.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, you should have seen my houses at this time. I had a few different rooms. Like, imagine a witch's hut in the forest.
Yep.
That was my room, literally in every way. You'd walk in there and there'd be an altar, there'd be like candles, like stained glass, like very aesthetic, to be honest. I had style. But yeah, me walking into there now, I would just be pleading the blood of Jesus over this place.
Yeah,
and at this time, I really was getting a lot of spiritual attacks at night. I'd get woken up at night and it'd be on. Just psychic warfare, like straight away, all night, And this happened a lot. Like, it was like those same things that I was talking about before. It was like the horror movie stuff.
Yeah.
But now I was quite equipped in that world, in this world of darkness to fight back, and I would, So I was really taking steps up, that these things that used to mess with me, now I've gained power.
But when these people were also mocking Jesus, how did that make you feel? Because you obviously,
I was that was the kind of thing that turned me away from this.
you obviously
that was
connected
kind
with
of
that
the thing.
because you remember it.
That was the kind of thing that was like, wait a second, like I don't care what you say so much anymore. Like I know Jesus is God, like kind of remembering those things. And I was like, well, wait a second. Like who is this? Who's my teachers? You know, and like what's my philosophy?
A discernment.
Yeah. At this point I'd been reading the Bible, right? But I'd always been trying to mold that to how I'm already living my life. I wasn't living off conviction at all. You know, I was, you know, looking for things to affirm the way that I was already living, you know, and yeah, it's crazy.
It sounds all to me. I just can't get this idea of like, as you're talking, it's sort of Chronicles of Narnia, you know, and it's Edward, right? And he's there and he's with the Queen and they're having these big parties and they're with all the monsters and creatures and he knows it's wrong. He knows like he's getting all the things he wants, but he knows it's wrong. He knows there's something better out there.
Yeah.
He knows what his sisters and his brothers, you know, his other brother are doing, and he knows that Aslan's really, and that's really where he wants to be. You know, and he knows the truth, but he's also surrounded by all these people and thinking, well, you know, there's something more.
Yeah.
I just can't get that out of my head.
And also ultimately, like my psychic, like, you know, my mental, like the rage, the sadness, it didn't go down at all. There was no improvement to that at all. You know, I was just as broken as when I left Hamilton, you know, even that whole period, like nothing had improved. So it was quite apparent to me that I was starting to learn this isn't the answers, you know, and I know Jesus. I know he's the good guy, you know. So if you're mocking him, does that make you the bad guy? And you know, we learn, yes.
That's
yes.
really incredible, man.
Quite simply, yes.
Sound like at this time in your life, there's a lot of weight on you. Everything you're talking about
through
is
my
like
whole life, like
physical weight on your shoulders, man.
Now that you mention that, I remember, yes, physical weight. You can actually feel physical weight on your body, on your shoulders. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's literally like a weight you're carrying, like not metaphorically.
I think a lot of people feel that weight, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a way to drop that weight.
Yeah, man.
yeah. And there's only one way.
Yeah.
Trust me, I tried so many ways. But yeah, so I started to really realize the things that I was in was detrimental. You know, it wasn't helpful. And I started to really turn to Jesus at that time. And I kind of stopped kidding myself that I was all this great. You know, I positioned myself in my own mind quite high up with all the things I was doing. I was seeking this admiration and this glory for myself. But I was still, you know, still so in pain. And I kind of realized like, I am not that guy. Like I am not so great, you know, and the things I'm doing are not working. The people I'm around, many of them amazing people still, with philosophies I don't agree with, you know, practices I don't agree with. And some of them are also people I would never associate with anymore, you know, like because of everything, you know, the Antichrist spirit deep ingrained in them. And, you know, I was starting to see this. I really started to turn to Jesus. I didn't fully submit, really. Like I said, I was still trying to mold the word to what I was saying, but I knew it was Jesus. Jesus was my only way.
When was the first time you went to a church?
Would have been when I was in foster care, like 12.
Sorry, I mean
then,
now. Is it
now,
after working hard?
I didn't go to any church, but I met a pastor.
Okay.
Pastor John.
Right.
I don't remember how I met him, but did some Bible studies with him, and he was working with me, and it wasn't that intimate, but I decided I wanted to be baptized because I knew Jesus was the only way at this point.
Okay.
Like, I knew everything was not working.
Did that come over like a long period of time, or was it sort of like these moments where all of a sudden you were like...
It was over the whole story. It was kind of leading up to me realizing like Jesus is the only way. And this is what I kind of realized, which is why I wanted to get baptized, and I wanted to live for Jesus. Even though I was still trying to mold the word to what I was saying, I knew there wasn't another way.
And was it the discernment the word gave you? Was it a feeling? Was it all of it?
It was all of it together.
Okay. It was just this like deep knowing that like all these other things that I'm trying, all this man that I'm trying to be, it's like it just ain't it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got baptized even when I was kind of in this world. I knew, and I just wanted to commit myself to Jesus, whatever that looked like. I was really, I wouldn't say I was in full submission, but, you know, I was committed to Jesus, and, you know, I was going to go with Jesus no matter what, above all things. So I got baptized, and I was still doing some spiritual practices, you know, still actually doing some witchcraft and stuff, but I was trusting in Jesus. I wouldn't say I was submitting to him completely, but I was, you know, committing to Jesus for the rest of my life. I was still fighting against conviction, receiving conviction and stuff. But this is when my path really started to move towards Jesus, when I got baptized. And looking back, he really started working since then, you know, well, throughout my whole life. But since then, it was like, okay, it's time, you know. Spent another year in Waiheke or so, a little bit longer, and was still getting worse. My meth addiction was really at an all-time high at this point. You know, witchcraft had slowed down. I had started getting conviction about that, you know, so I was kind of listening to conviction and stuff, but you know, ultimately the drugs were overpowering.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It got pretty bad.
Huh?
It got pretty bad,
super bad.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Do you see a correlation between, because this is what I often find with people when they start to step closer into faith and they start to accept Christ.
Yeah.
And it's like they get baptized or whatever, suddenly this weight bears down on them, and it's, you know, the enemy sees what you're doing and he's like, I'm coming hard, I'm coming fast.
In my mind, it was still on the same trajectory that it had always been, steadily getting worse over a long period of time. And so I don't really remember anything like that, because like I said, I still wasn't submitted to Christ. Like, it's like I got baptized, but I wasn't fully submitted, but I was fully committed. You know, it's a weird thing. I was going to commit my whole life to Jesus, but I was still going to hold on to my old life. I thought that's kind of how
you could do it. Yeah, I was the same, bro.
But I didn't really, I
remember being at a men's conference with my friend Josh and saying to him, like, can I still do this and this if I'm a Christian? And he must have just been like, what? Like, what are you talking about? He was just like, so kind and just like, no, you can't, Josh. You can't do that and that. It's like, you can't have the freedom if you're still going to be shackled.
Yeah.
And it's like, I thought I could still have the shackles and be chained and still do this other stuff and then also walk in truth. And it doesn't work. That doesn't mean when you become a Christian, you suddenly stop sinning, and you suddenly, like, the minute you submit to Christ, everything changes, and you don't still have, you know, things nipping at your heels, and you don't still sin, you don't still fail, but you know that, like, there's a clear direction, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Right now, you were probably like, use the squirrel in the road, not going left, right, you know.
Yeah, so that's very much what, like, this year or two, or like this period of time was for me. It was really learning that. And towards the end of it, you know, like what you said, the devil never wants you to hit rock bottom, because then you'll fall on your knees and look to Christ.
Yeah. That's
So that's what happened. That's what happened. I was broken. I really hit rock bottom, you know, and looked to Christ. And I tried to escape again. But at this point, I was baptized and I was kind of walking with Jesus a little bit.
Yeah.
And he brought me here to Queenstown. So I moved to Queenstown, and things started to click, you know, at this point. Just little things just aligning to point me in this direction. And
what were those little things?
Just things like my job when I got here, like accommodation when I got here, and like my job came with a company car, and like without that, it would just not have worked, you know. I really wanted to leave hospitality, and it just kind of I wanted to leave hospitality because it was bad for my health, bad for my mental health.
Was you praying into those things?
I can't remember.
Were you subconsciously asking for them?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. And that's one thing that really clicked. You know, I just got this job that was, you know, perfect for me. And there's a bunch of other things. And I went to Queenstown, and a couple months in, I'd run away from my problems again, technically, you know, like, so I met drug dealers, and I'd started smoking weed again, and, you know, smoking cigarettes and all this stuff, you know, all the bad stuff started slowly trickling back in, and I was like, I panicked almost. I was just like, I cannot do that again. Like, I have to change this time. And
that's a big realization, man.
Yeah. It was hardcore. And I really looked to Christ. That's when I really like looked to Christ. But I remember praying to Christ saying, like, I'm not asking you for anything right now. I'm just saying, like, watch this, like, watch what I'm about to do. And all this rage that I had over my whole life, I directed it at my lifestyle. And I was so angry at the way I had been living. And basically I crucified the flesh, like went on this crusade against my lifestyle.
The righteous anger. I was furious, you know, and I stopped smoking weed, stopped everything. Didn't even drink coffee because I was hooked on coffee, basically. And been drinking like 3 cups a day for like 5 years, you know, even coffee, cigarettes, everything. Anything that was detrimental to my spiritual health, my physical health, I stopped right then and there. Yeah. You killed the old self.
Well, not quite.
You
started to
fight.
for sure.
Yeah.
Started to really, really not tolerate any of it anymore. But I wasn't leaning on Christ. I was trying to do this through my own strength, you know.
You'd even told him. You was like, I'm not going to ask you for help, Dad.
I'm not asking you for help. I'm just saying, watch this. Like, here I come.
I've got this.
I'm coming to you, Jesus. You know, was my attitude. And I received conviction, go to church. First, there's plenty of churches in Queenstown, but the first one I went to was City Impact. And I remember being so nervous, like went to church and went there a few times. And at this point, about after a month, I couldn't maintain this fight. You know, I'd done so well. I'd really not given in to the desires of the flesh over this month. But at the end of the month, about 4 weeks or something, everything started to seep back in, you know, everything all at once, slowly, you know. My strength was failing me. I was leaning on my own.
To seep back in.
Yeah.
So you'd started to let the sin little bit.
Yeah, like my own strength was failing me. It was just not enough to conquer this, you know. And I went to church and a few times, and then when it was just kind of knocking at the door, like, this is, you know, not going to work, went to church a little bit late this time, and there was only one seat really that was left to me. You know, it was quite packed that day, and it was kind of that center row between the two aisles. And then you got those back rows.
Yeah.
You got one in the center in front of the sound booth.
Yeah.
There's a very center seat on that center row. So Pastor Corey was like preaching, like, and it was just hitting me, bro. It was just hitting me. And at the end, there was an altar call, and I felt so convicted to go up. But at this point, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt so much shame. Like, I'd done so many things. And Chloe, our worship leader, she grabbed the mic, and she was just speaking through the Spirit, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
And she said, like, there's someone here with like this darkness around their heart, and Jesus wants to do open heart surgery on you tonight, right here, right now.
Go on, Chloe.
Yeah. And I felt Jesus say, like, you step forward now, or you refuse me. Like, do you want me or not? You know, that was like what
So
Jesus.
this is where you were sat, bro.
Yeah.
That's where you was in your life, right?
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Yeah. And I had no choice. I had to step forward. It was either just simply step forward, go get prayed for, or live my life that I'd always lived in this just horrible pain, you know, throughout my whole life. Yeah, that's when I met you. Yeah, so first Jacob prayed for me, and, you know, straight dropped on the floor. I was just sobbing. Like, when Jacob prayed for me, I felt things leave me, but I was just still wrecked. You know, I dropped to the floor, but it wasn't like over, you know, and I was sitting on the floor, like just sobbing, and like got my way to one of the seats and was still just broken. Like the Lord had just broken it. Like, you know, I can't even really remember a whole lot, to be honest. But I remember just crying there, and all of a sudden you were praying for me. I don't really remember a whole lot, but
I remember that service.
Yeah.
And I remember that being said. And I remember at the time I was often stood there crying myself. You know, for the first 6 months I did a lot of that when I first got here. And I started really leaning into this, the courage that Christ enables us with. And it's the courage that enabled you to step out. It wasn't of your doing. It was the free will to you to accept Christ, but it was the courage that God gives us to take them steps.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you in that seat, and it was, I can't really even explain it. It was as if like everything parted and you were sat there, and these things had been happening to me in Queenstown where I'd kind of asked God for these opportunities.
Yeah.
And I hadn't actually prayed over anybody before on my own. And it was like, I remember seeing you and being like, right, this is, you know, let's go, God, I can do this with you. And, you know, being like, if it was, I would have never come, I was terrified, you know, and I came up to you, and I remember walking up to you and thinking, oh, he's clearly, you know, he's gone through some loss. Maybe he's lost a loved one, or, you know, he's going through a breakup, or, you know, he's doing, and then very quickly realizing that this is something that I've never experienced, I've never come across. And this is from a background of like really kind of being an open person and diving into psychology and therapy and that world, and then seeing a lot of pain and hurt, and this was different. This was that weight that I'm talking about. I could physically, it was there, man. It was bearing down on you.
Yeah.
And you was letting this feeling out, and you know, when you have a good cry and you let that out, and you have a really good cry, and it's like, you know, it's really natural. But this was that, but times 10.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I remember like,
There was primal noises coming out of you, man.
yeah. Like I said, I can't remember a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like, but I knew like it wasn't quite over. Like when Jacob first prayed for me, and I remember you praying for me, and like every time you'd say something, it'd just be like, I can't remember. You know, it was, but it lasted for like an hour straight.
Yeah, we were there for a while, and then I remember very quickly feeling, man, I'm out of my depth. Like, and I remember in my head saying like, I need help, and looking up, and again, I'd only met him a couple of times, but he's one of my closest friends here now, Bailey, a young man, you know, he's only 23, whatever he is, but he's a big bodybuilding lad, and he was stood across the room with his now wife Taz, and I remember looking at him being like, I didn't even have to say anything, and he kind of saw me and was like, okay, Josh needs help. So he came over, and, you know, Bailey's really well, you know, read in the scripture, and man, he just started praying, and the things he was saying, it was like, you know, it was like he was a knight drawing a sword.
Yeah, totally.
You know, that righteousness was there, and he was just, he knew exactly what to say.
Yeah.
And I felt strong in that moment with you, and I just remember holding on to you, and while Bailey said what he said, and it was very powerful, man. And this stuff was coming out of you, man.
Yeah. There was all this stuff coming out of me. Like I said, I can't remember much, but I remember just experiencing this like pain, like that I'd had my whole life, that I'd been running from, you know. And it was leaving, but I had to experience it. And sorry, it's just,
No, man.
it's the worst pain, you know?
I'd never seen anything like that, Jesse.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was the most painful moment of my life. Yeah. But I'd really been carrying that around forever, you know? And I was just numbing myself with all these drugs, with all this stuff. And I finally had to feel it for it to leave.
Yeah.
You know, and all this shame, all this guilt, all this stuff. It was just, having this, what must have looked like an exorcism.
It was a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
He was laying it down.
Just had these two huge gym bros praying for me. It was.
You don't remember much of what happened afterwards, really, do you? With Corey and Jacob.
I remember talking to Corey, but at that point, I knew it was done.
Yeah.
I knew, I didn't really need to talk to Corey.
Yeah.
But you wanted me to talk to Corey.
Yeah. I panicked, man. I was like, I was out of my depth. I was like, this guy needs to talk to Corey. He needs to talk to the pastor.
Yeah.
So I kind of dragged you to Jacob and was like, this man needs to see Corey. And Jacob was so chilled and was like, okay, and found Corey. And, the way Corey preaches and the way he talks about the principalities of the other and the way, he's attacking his spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
And I thought Corey was going to come over and do this whole sermon, bro. I thought he was going to start anointing you and all this kind of stuff and getting the cross out. And he came over and it was, it was a pull up your bootstraps. God, son talking to the, father talking to the son, kind of you've done what you need to do. You've submitted to Christ. Now go.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful, man. And I remember, and I'd seen Corey deal with other people, including myself, and be very kind of soft.
Yeah.
He was very soft on me.
Yeah.
And the way he was with you was he obviously saw the power that you had and it was different. And I realized then again, it's God speaks through the pastors. It's his spirit. That's who we go for spiritual guidance. And it's that knowing of God speaks to everybody in different ways. We're all different sons.
Yeah.
And you needed something different than that, man.
Yeah, totally.
And yours was he saw it in you. Corey knew no, he's done what he needs to do. He just needs to keep doing now.
Yeah.
And it was, I remember just going, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't need to panic then.
Yeah.
Jesus is with us. Jesus is the one who's in control. And it was really special, man.
It was crazy because all this healing that I'd done in the past through all these different avenues, all these spiritual circles, Jesus, 1 hour.
Yeah.
And man,
that first time I saw you afterwards, because I talk about his physical weight because that's what I saw physically bearing down on your shoulders. You were this man that was physically in so much pain. And I remember seeing the young adults the next week, man. And it's part of my testimony because I saw this. It was a different man. It was something out of a Hollywood movie. It was something out of the Chronicles of Narnia. It was a different human being. The way you look, the way you float around now, bro, and nothing touches you.
Yeah.
And I know it does. Things still affect us, but we've got this man called Jesus that stands by us.
It's so different now. Yeah.
It's because it's not been easy since then, bro.
Yeah.
You've been through
you know
man.
the things
but
that
it's
have happened since then, but they bounce and slide off me now, you know? It's not the same. I've got the Holy Spirit. Yeah, it's completely different.
And all that stuff stuff you went through and all the things that the enemy told you to hold on to is shame and fear and punishment.
Yeah.
We know that Christ, he went through all that pain.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to feel this pain.
Yeah. Totally.
When we say he died for our sins, he went through this, and you doing what you did when you submitted to him was physically laying all that shame and that weight down at his feet. He picked up that weight and bared that cross for us.
Yeah, I can't explain how different I feel now. The way I act, the way I speak, the way I look, even physically, is different. I went back to Waiheke for a holiday, and there wasn't a single person that knew me back then that didn't say I look completely different. Something's different. Well, I can say Jesus. Of course, it doesn't quite sink in for them.
Yeah.
But that's really all you need.
Yeah, that's really all you need.
Yeah. My whole life searching, like, tried so many things,
Yeah.
you know, like so many different ways. And it was really that simple all along, you know.
But he's not just changed you, he's also changed the direction, man. Like, tell us a little bit about like your vision going forward, man, and what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, going through this, like living this life has really given me a heart for the youth, you know, like I can't, you know, thinking about this stuff happening to me, you know, like the part that really teared me up was Jesus healing me. But thinking about this stuff going to me, it doesn't really, you know, affect me too much. But thinking about other people going through that ignites that rage in me again. Yeah, you know, like
rage is in righteous anger.
Yeah,
it's righteous. We keep saying righteous anger. It's because we had a pretty, you know, in-depth debate the other night with each other at my men's forum about like, are we allowed to be angry? Are we allowed, as Christians, are we allowed to act out? Are we allowed to be angry at like, you know, we're talking about, you know, like Joshua from the Bible and like these characters that went and sacked cities and in the name of God. And we were saying like, are we allowed to do that? You know, after, you know, we're allowed to be angry. And we actually asked Jacob at church the other night, you asked the question and we was educated in this righteous anger to be like, when something is against God, we're supposed to hate it.
We're called to hate sin.
Yeah.
You know? And this is very much how I feel about looking back at my story. And, you know, I met plenty of kids in the system with, you know, worse stories than mine, man. And I just, you know, I cannot stand by, you know, and knowing all this is going on, I have to do something, you know? Yeah, sorry. It's just...
No, man.
Yeah, I can't. You know, I will not stand idly by in the presence of evil. You know,
you've already started. You've already started making those steps, bro. Like I've seen it. Like you know, we won't go into too much detail because it involves people from the community. And our friends. But like, you've already started working with the youth.
Yeah.
You know, and you've had so much more impact than you probably even realize yourself.
Yeah.
But I've seen it. And and the reason why God uses us all in our different ways is because you've been able to deal with situations that I can't deal with. That's not my, you know, and I've tried, and I have to understand that, like, you know, you've got this patience about you, bro, that's like, it's beautiful. And,
so
it's an understanding that I won't ever have because I've not lived what you've lived.
Yeah.
And God's using you in that way because, you know, and he clearly does it with everybody. He clearly uses everybody's skills and talents. You know, like we're not all supposed to be Pastor Corey and we're not all supposed to be Chloe. We're not all, you know, we're not all supposed to run a podcast or a men's forum or, you know, not all of us got the funds and not all of us are supposed to be youth workers. But it's very clear that that's, you know, God's put you on this path for a reason.
Yeah. I've got no doubt in my mind. Like this is, you know, one of my callings is to go back into that world and really have an impact. Like there is no level of myself that I will not commit to this. Like I'm ready to commit my whole life to this, you know, like I will do whatever it takes to have the most impact possible in this field, working with the youth, because I can't stand to think even just to think about it. What the youth go through.
Sounds like a mission to me, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. It's just...
I think when you become a Christian man and you spend time around other Christian men, young and old, you realise like the importance, you know, people are searching for this meaning of life.
Yeah.
And I think it becomes very quickly very apparent that it's about service.
Totally, yeah.
And the difference
100%.
between being a boy and a man is that change where it's not long about yourself, it's about others. And that doesn't mean that we can't also have our own ambitions and things, but they normally, you know, if them ambitions align with God, it's normally in the act of service.
Totally,
and,
yeah.
And that's definitely the way you're going, man.
Yeah,
and it's you know, I've never ever seen you emotional, Jesse. So this is
this is the one thing.
Since the, you know,
this is the one thing that gets me.
But what's so beautiful, mate, like, is the fact that the last time I saw you emotional was when you was in church, and it was a very different emotion.
Yeah.
It was very dark.
Yeah.
And this is
This
beautiful.
is definitely,
This is a whole new man. And it's,
totally. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you're
Last
also,
time you saw me like this was when I was,
and the whole notion of like, you know, tough men don't cry and all this kind of stuff. Well, this guy's a pretty tough man.
Yeah.
Like we could go on for another hour. Like if I got into the fishing boats, or I got into the other thing this man's been through.
Yeah.
This guy's a tough man. And you know, I like to say that as Christian men, we have soft hearts. We're not soft men.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that speaks to this moment right now. You know, we're allowed to share this feeling, and we're allowed to be there with Christ. And you know, I know you share the same thing. We believe right now, Christ is in the room with us, bro. He's holding our hand.
Yeah,
you know,
100%. Yeah,
and
it's just this. The system is really overrun. Like there are not enough people that care enough to actually act. Like there are not enough homes. You know, there are not enough caregivers. There are not enough social workers. There is not enough funding. So
if we've learnt one thing, bro, from the book that we read, is it doesn't take 100 men.
No.
It takes one man. It takes a few to change the many.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're just, you know, you're one of those men that's making that change. And what I will ask is sort of round it off with the question of if you've got any advice, or advice sounds a bit corporate, if you have any kind of like, advice to anyone that's feeling any kind of way you were feeling, or searching, or coming to the church, what would that be? You know?
Well, just don't be afraid. Like coming to Christ can be quite daunting, to be honest, because you're looking at doing what I just told you I went through, you know, with the healing at the church. I think deep down people know that they have to go through that too in order to reach the other side, you know? And, you know, like when you were praying for me, that was a painful moment. And I think deep down people know that moment's coming for them. But you're living in that moment until you get through that, you know, like it's not that I experienced all those emotions in that one moment. I was experiencing them through my whole life. It's in that moment I stopped numbing them, you know. It's like there was no barrier between me and those emotions anymore, you know. And that's a painful thing, but you're living in that pain already, you know. Like, so reach out to Christ. Like, he is the only way, you know. He's the only real way to heal through, you know, something that big. Of course, you got therapy, you got all these different like avenues which are very helpful, but without Christ, it's going to be superficial without Christ, to be honest.
We could have had this whole conversation without Christ in the room.
It would have meant nothing,
and it would have been beautiful. It'd have been a conversation between two men. We'd have had our feelings. We'd have cried. We'd have done this whole therapeutic thing. But then we'd walked out that door and we'd have walked out alone.
Well, without Christ, the story wouldn't have.
It would have happened, right?
It wouldn't be over. I would still be
exactly.
back. Exactly.
You know, we're going to walk out this room.
Christ is the end of this story. You know, like that's how this story ended. You know,
he's already won.
He's already won.
We believe that he's already won.
You just have to, you know, reach out to Christ. Yeah. The local church is like extremely powerful. You know, the church is the avenue that Christ works through, or one of them. You know, that's how Christ reached me. You know, I felt convicted to go to church, and that is where, you know, I really got met by Christ. So go to church, you know.
Awesome.
Pentecostal church.
Well, we did the high hallelujahs, right?
Yeah, we got our hands up there. Yeah, no. Also, I would like to say, like, it's going to be very difficult for me to have an impact in this field alone. Like, I'm ready to commit my life to this, but it's you know, I don't have I barely got any resource at all. You know, all I am is a man who is going to commit my life to this. If you want to partner with me, you know, everyone's welcome to. I don't know if you own a big house in Queenstown, but yeah, there are so many people with so much resource that are, you know, I don't understand why you would keep so much to yourself when there's, you know, thousands of stories like the one I've just told that aren't over yet. You know, there's people like me that want to help, who are ready to commit their life. Not just me, there's others as well. But we are just not equipped, you know. I'm equipped with Christ, and Christ equips me with everything he needs me to have to accomplish his mission. And I will have those things, and I will have an impact in this field.
Well, one of the most powerful things you ever said to me, you know, was that Christ doesn't choose the equipped, he equips the chosen.
That's right. Yeah, I think Corey
you're talking
stole that from Corey.
Well, yeah, you know, we probably stole that from the Bible, but I know you said that to me, and it means, you know, but financially, I think, you know, yeah.
Well, it's not so much about finances. It's like, you know, I'm not going to have enough finances to buy a house. And a house is what I need. I need to shelter these children. We need a really good home and more of them. Because, like, you know, if I went to a home back then where I was the caregiver, this story would have been a lot shorter.
What's your vision then? For anybody watching and
I want to
reach out and help you.
I just want to impact as much youth as possible by having my own home, you know, and bringing as many children as I possibly can into that home, and just giving them sanctuary.
No, so we can't go into too much detail, but you've already started.
I've already started.
It's a tiny, you know, dip in the pond.
Yeah,
but he's started, and
I'm already working. It's
very impressive to see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, if anyone out there can help this man out, it'd be pretty awesome. He's doing pretty awesome things. Yeah. So, yeah.
Do we have a high note we can end?
I think that's pretty high, man.
Jesus is good.
Jesus is good, and to see where you've come from, bro. You know, to see that you're, you know, you're stepping back into that world, covered in this, you know, the armament of God.
Yeah.
Sword of the Spirit.
100%. Yeah.
You know, and it's
very exciting to see where this is going, because I know this is just started, really, and I don't want to accomplish a little bit. Like I said, I'm gonna commit my whole life to this, and it's gonna be a long road.
God bless you, Jesse.
Yeah. Yes, that's everything.
We're gonna wrap it there, I think. Yeah. Thanks, brother.
I hate to end crying, but
nah, man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Love you, bro. Thanks. Just want to say thank you for the opportunity to host this first episode of the Jesus Magnet, and hopefully this will be the start of many more. Thank you to Joel and the Jesus Magnet team. You can find them on Instagram, on YouTube, and yeah, let's keep taking these testimonies and building this thing together and spreading the name of Christ.